Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a safe place for leading with your heart. Hey, thanks for being here. You, Me, Empathy is the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective, a collaborative mental health community designed to empower each of us to grow our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. No one is just a silly boy with a feely heart. You can support the show by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts, following us on social media at Yumi Empathy and Feely Human, and joining the Feely Human Collective community at feelyhuman.co. And now your host, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy, your favorite mental health podcast. Maybe even your favorite podcast. I don't know. Leave 5 stars, ratings and reviews. Looking for them. Anyways, my name is Known Wells. Did I say that already? I don't know. This is episode 156 on what doggos can teach us about empathy and ourselves with my guest, Kim Erickson. Kim is a dog trainer. She owns the Canine Republic at thecaninerepublic.com. Check it out. She's amazing. We talk about dogs in this episode. We talk a lot about dogs. Dogs everywhere. Dogs galore. A woman after my own heart. She loves dogs. I love dogs. We talk in this episode about Kim's start in dog training, the profound impact her sweet dog, Bela, has had on her life, and I should note that since we spoke, Bela has passed. She was dealing with some cancer, some illness, and all of my love goes to out to Kim and her family for losing sweet Bela. Oh man, I mean the impact dogs have on our lives is so profound, and I know that pain, and it's never easy. But they teach us so much, and we talk a lot about that in this episode. We talk about how they can teach us empathy and mindfulness and being in touch with our feelings, and how they're mirrors for us, and how they can even impact our own human relationships. Dogs are beautiful. All animals are, but in this episode we talk specifically about dogs because Kim is a dog trainer. So enjoy that. I hope you enjoy that. I enjoyed it. Before we get to the episode, though, I wanted to remind you that this podcast is on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/feelyhuman, you can get $5 a month. You get an extra bonus episode, and the $10 and up folks, we have a monthly Zoom hang where we talk about a specific topic. The last one was we explored advocacy in a divided world. It was a really wonderful conversation with Suzanne and Jen and Claudia and myself. It was wonderful. And out of that, we're assigning ourselves homework, which is great. So if you want to learn more about the bonus stuff, you can get at Patreon. Go to patreon.com/feelyhuman. And the link for that is in the show notes. Also, speaking of Patreon, wanted to shout out the new Patreon supporter, Kelly. Hey, Kelly. Thank you for your support. You're the best. Thank you so much. This show is weekly. It's a lot of work, and I put a lot of effort and time and energy into it. And I will always do that. And if you get something out of it, and you feel like supporting me financially, that's up to you. But it would be great if you could. And if not, that's cool too. You can leave a review for You, Me, Empathy in Apple Podcasts. That helps out the show too. I also wanted to share, one more thing before this share. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I tend to be in these intros. If you haven't signed up for the Feely Human newsletter, the link to that is in the show notes for this episode. And if you go to feelyhuman.co, scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can sign up for the newsletter there. I mention it because I'm sending out the December email in about a week or so. And you should be on my email list because I send out fun emails every month with cool stuff and links to cool things and my feely thoughts. So go to feelyhuman.co to sign up for that, or the link is in the show notes for this episode. The last thing I wanted to share before we get to our conversation with Kim Erickson is just the latest on my heart situation. So I, as some of you know, have been having chest pain, and so I saw a doctor, got an EKG. There were some abnormalities. And the latest is on Friday, just this past Friday, I went to get an echocardiogram and got those results back, but I haven't at this point. Today's Sunday. You're listening to this the day after this on Monday. I haven't had any answers yet, so hopefully the doctor talks to me this week about what the results of the echo were. I kind of went on a downward spiral yesterday and did some Googling, and of course, all roads on Google lead to heart failure. So yesterday I was just a mess and thinking I was going to die, which is not true because they wouldn't, let me go home if that was the case. So I need to remember that. I need to remember that and listen to my body and listen to professionals. So I'm dealing with that right now. Hopefully I get some answers this week. On Tuesday, a couple days from now, I'm doing a stress test where I run on a what are those called? Running things. Jesus, goodness. Treadmill. That's the word. Treadmill. You can tell I don't spend a lot of time inside gymnasiums. So I'm doing a stress test on a treadmill to check out like how my ticker responds to that. And we'll see. So hopefully I have some answers about what's going on. It's probably nothing. It's probably just some weird thing because I have weird things. But that's the latest. It has given me a lot of anxiety and stuff like that, which has been hard. But I'm working through it. I have to. So that's it. Those are my intro notes. So sign up for Patreon. Shout out to Kelly. Sign up for the Feel Human newsletter, and my heart is still beating. So, that's a good thing. Yours is too, because you're listening to this. Our hearts are beating together. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Anyways, let's get to the episode. I thank you so much for listening to the show. It means a lot. I love doing this show. I need it as much as maybe you need it. I don't know. But I hope each week can bring a little bit of reflection, opportunities, and connection, and empathy, and a reminder that vulnerability is a healing force. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with the wonderful Kim Erickson on what dogs can teach us about empathy and ourselves.
La 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 la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights and the darks we face as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You, Me, Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I'm giddy, neck deep in snuggly puppies because I'm here with dog trainer and behavior specialist building relationships on calmness, trust, and respect, and the owner of the Canine Republic, a community of balanced humans and dogs. It's Kim Erickson. Hello, Kim.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm so excited to have you. I like you am a animal lover. We've got dogs. Dogs are the best. Doggos galore. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That was a lovely introduction too, I started originally as a dog owner in that exact place of, you know, dog loving and wanting to learn more about dogs and help dogs. So now I get to turn it into a career in helping dogs and people and what it's grown into. I'm so excited to share it with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear all about it. Before we get into all of that, though, Kim, we always start the show with an emotional check-in. How are you feeling?
Oh, thank you for asking. Actually, in full honesty, I'm feeling touch anxious and a little fragmented. I've got a lot going on. Today, in particular, in the last couple of weeks, the big subject is my dog Bela, who's the matriarch of our pack here. She's actually the dog that's on my logo. The whole reason why I became a dog trainer. She's been struggling a year and a half battle with a cancer, and it's starting to really take its course. And we're getting close to some of those last decisions. Those tough choices that we have to make here. And we've been preparing for it and really personally going through those emotions for a while now. And the beauty that she has taught me about the process of the transition that she's in and the transcendence that she's going through right now. It's beautiful to watch. Sad, scary, all of those things as well, but also just beautiful to watch. So that kind of hit this week, like a lot of that hit. So
yeah.
I'm in my feelings with that. And struggle's not the right, I mean, it's appropriate, but it's not the right word. In the way that, of course, I'm with it and I'm not pushing it away, but, having to, rise with it and fall with it where it takes me through as we're going through that this week.
Yeah. I mean, I so appreciate the way you described that as kind of being in it and feeling your feelings and I'm sorry. I was like welling up as hearing you say that because I've been through that, and I imagine you've gone through similar situations with dogs, having their time, right? And that is like we have he'll be 14 in a few days. Our black Labrador Scooby, and I mean, I'll tell it to my wife every day. He's the love of my life.
Yeah.
And it's there is something kind of I don't know. Dogs and animals are kind of like a microcosm of the universe in a way because they teach us the sort of how kind of passing, how sort of like wayward and sometimes just unexpected life is, but also they teach us so much and certainly how to be kind of present and in the moment and loving. And I'm just feeling all of that right now from you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's been a journey. And, like I said, Bela was the reason why I started, working with dogs because she forced me to look at myself and the lessons she's taught me from when we brought her into our house when she was a year old and she was just this really difficult dog. And the lesson she taught me from the very beginning and all over these last 13 years, because she's 14 as well. And specifically when we found out about this disease over a year ago, right down to this very week, there have been, she is, I literally look at her as my guide. She's my spirit guide. And she has taught me so much about myself over these years, life, people, patience, and just, the list goes on and on. But right now she truly is teaching me about, I've always heard people say these things. It's a beautiful thing. Death is a beautiful thing. And and I always appreciated the sentiment, but I never understood. I couldn't, and I didn't really have the tools to look at it that way. And I feel like that is exactly what Bela has been preparing me for from since we we got the news, and in this year, and watching her through it. It's been beautiful too. I mean, it hasn't been like a tough year for her. We've had moments of like, okay, tough decisions. Should we do this procedure or whatever? But she always comes back like a rally, and always reminds us of, don't feel sorry for me. Like, let's live life. Let's live life. Let's enjoy life. And even, even right now, and as I'm sitting in it right now, she's still there. She's still very much giving me that. And it's going to be, I don't even want to say her final lesson, because I think even once she's left this place, there's still lessons that she's going to continue to bring. So
absolutely.
It's so that's where I'm at. Emotional check-in. I'm deep in that feeling. I'm deep in all of that. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I so appreciate you sharing that. It is, I think that animals can be such beautiful teachers, as you're showing, as you're sharing here. And I wonder, let's go back to that sort of, that when, Bela was a year old. I'm curious, like, what are some of the lessons that you were learning in those early days?
Well, it kind of tells a little bit of my story too about dog training, or how I came into the career I have now, in that, I was just, your everyday dog lover. And he wasn't my husband at the time, but we lived together, and we worked together. I used to be a camera assistant and I worked with him on the same television show. And one morning we said, let's go look for a dog. And we went, and it wasn't the first dog we saw, but it was the first one I cried over. And we very much made a very emotional choice in picking her. And not so much the educated trainer, this is what you should look for, personality, behavior wise. And I didn't know anything about that. But there was this connection, and an emotional choice was made, and we decided to take her. And when she first came home, she was very ill, and because she'd had a litter. She was only a year old, but she looked like she had multiple litters. And so she had some recovery to go through. And once she was kind of her full self, oh boy, she was a difficult dog. She was very reactive to dogs. Not knowing any better, I did what a lot of people do. I took her straight into the dog park, and she got herself into a lot of trouble. And nothing ever dangerous. Like, she never hurt anybody, but she was just always that dog in the yard, that, top dog. And then even with people, she was real weird with people. Not like in a nervous way, just a very confident, like, I run my stuff. Like, she commands presence, she commands space.
Yeah.
And she just carries herself in that way. And so we spent the better part of the first year or so kind of managing around that. And then, we got another dog, thinking that would help. Only they started fighting over me. They started fighting together, not all the time. And again, they weren't. That's where we brought in Rocco, my boxer dog. They never hurt each other, but it was always just these sort of competitive, expressions of who was in charge. And I started looking into, I'd read books, and I'd watch TV shows, and I was taking like classes at, like the kind of Petco's, PetSmart kind of places. And I was getting like a certain measure of success, but I wasn't really getting, real results. And I was still having to just avoid a lot. I couldn't walk at certain times of days, things like that. I mean, we'd be on a walk, and they'd end up, we'd see a dog, and here I am thinking, I got to correct this because Rocco's getting excited. So I'm over there just, no, leave it. Go on, yeah. And I'm all, worked up, knock it off, snapping the leash and doing all these things I saw, a trainer do, or someone do on TV, or read on, whatever. And I think I'm training my dog, but I'm just a mess. I'm an anxious mess, and frustrated and scared and completely unaware of all of that at the time. But we got to the point where even getting my shoes on, I'm anticipating the walk. I'm thinking, okay, it's this hour, that one lady, if I don't leave now, we'll run past that one lady you see every morning. And we always try to avoid that lady because she has a dog, so before I've even left the house, I'm really ramping myself up. And it's like I went out, on guard instead of out for this stroll to enjoy.
Yeah. I want to pause there for a second, because this is such an important piece of, I think you could tell it better, but like any relationship really, but like thinking about like how our emotions are impacting our bodies, and like how even before we even realize it, it's happening.
Yeah.
And our dogs and, people, especially our dogs can pick up on that. Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying that like, you're starting to like anticipate, you have this anticipatory anxiety about, the woman and, what's going to happen. And you're sort of already like in your head about like, okay, how am I going to like make this not
Manage.
so frustrating?
Yeah.
And the
Well, I
dog's
was more
already
like,
picking up on that, right?
yeah. And more so, how can I avoid, how can I what will you do? Are you prepared? And I'm more like, okay, I'll put him on my right and her on my left. And I'm thinking about muscles, like how I'm going to
Mm,
physically control the situation and, environmentally control, logistically timing and all of that. I'm just not, I'm not in this, I'm not in touch with how I'm feeling and how that's affecting me and therefore how it's affecting them. And I'm just not in touch with the moment,
yeah.
like I'm anticipating something that might happen in
Right.
15-20 minutes instead of, you just got out of bed and you're putting your shoes on and just breathe and, just be
Right.
in this space, in this moment. And, your dog is sitting there looking at you and enjoy that moment, like just be in that moment. And that's a big part of what comes into my message of training is being present in our moments, especially not just in the obvious ones that we need when the dog might be reacting, but, in the moments that lead up to it. And so that's kind of what Bailey was starting to teach me was, because as much as I knew what to do technique wise and all this, because I sought a trainer, I was doing a lot of training, but none of the trainers that I'd run across or any of the programs I'd taken it had really stopped and said, how are you feeling?
Mm,
None of them had done that. And so that wasn't one technique to check off, the box to check off in the process of things I was doing. And, yeah, so that's when I started looking. I just kept looking around, and actually that concept of dog psychology. I was introduced to it through Cesar Millan, which that idea of energy and how it affects our outcome and it
right.
affects our dogs and all of that. So that's where I started doing classes at the Dog Psychology Center on the weekend. With different trainers that were there. And it's the first class I walked into and I was nervous and I was all tensed up and I was ready for battle, shoulders in my ears and, I got that leash ripped around my hand twice,
Mm,
and
yeah.
I'm going in there with bent elbows and chest big and my dog is just popping off at everything and I'm wrestling it. And finally the teacher just says, how are you feeling right now? I was like, I'm fine. I'm like, no. How are you feeling? I'm fine. What are you talking about? Like, when are you going to tell me what to do? Not realizing
Right.
that work had already started.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, don't worry about it. It's okay don't worry. He's allowed to lunge. It's okay. That's allowed, and then gave me permission to allow the mistakes, to allow one of the things I talk about a lot is like that social pressure we feel that when our dog is acting out, like we feel pressure to that, like, oh, my dog's not perfect. And we can feel shame and embarrassment and things like that too.
Yeah. No
And
one wants to be the owner of the dog who's, the pill.
yeah, even though, years later, I'm end up teaching the very class I took that day. And I started asking people because it was so relatable for me that I was like, everybody in this, space, 10 different students, 10 different dogs, all reactive. And I said, who here is really nervous? Raise your hand, because that was me. And of course, everybody shoots their hands. Who here thinks they have the worst dog in the field? And everybody raised their hand. I was like, okay, so we're all in the same place right now. Just drop that guard because I just know how, that you're in a space, kind of like what you facilitate here. You're in a safe space, no judgment,
Yep.
no. This is where it begins. This isn't about dogs anymore. This is where it begins.
Yeah.
So my journey through that has been since then. So when I became aware of this is when I started becoming aware of what my dogs were teaching me about
Right.
myself.
I'm curious, like early on, like what was the motivation behind like, all right, I need to like look into more training. I need to figure this out. Cause like, was it just this feeling of like overwhelm, frustration, and wanting to kind of lessen that?
Fear, a lot of fear. I can say in hindsight now, I couldn't have said it then, that there was probably a lot of ego.
Mm.
because, I wanted a well-trained dog, and a well-trained dog represents me, and I've got my stuff together.
Right.
And, you know, and,
Yeah.
and, and as a personality, I'm a person that likes things organized and kept, and I'm just, I know I have a big energy. I know I've got a stronger personality. That was something I used to make myself feel. I'm used to try to tamp down. I've now learned to, grow into that better and allow that. But at the time, I used it as almost a guard for myself. Working in the film business and all of that, like it was part of my identity. That I was just this big, strong, and it was a self-defense mechanism. It was a way I just kept up with all of it, and so
Yeah.
that's where I think the ego paid into it. When my dog wasn't a certain way, then there must be this idea that well, it's not listening to me, like it's personal or something.
Right. Right. And it never is.
No, it isn't. It really isn't. So yeah, I think that's probably where some of that was coming from. Is I need to get this together because it represents me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of that opening scene in 101 Dalmatians, right? And the dogs are sort of like, they look exactly like their owners, and they're all sort of acting exactly like their owners.
Mm-hmm.
We do that as humans. We hold on to these pieces of our identity that may be true, but we're almost like limiting their powers because we're stuck in the way we look at them, and then they don't allow us to kind of grow into them, as you said.
Yeah.
And then the dogs can, if we allow them to be these teachers, but if we only have one sort of way of looking at it, and we're not allowing that sort of give and take, or the presence, or the lack of control that we have to admit to ourselves early on, like all of that stuff is such a mindful ego sort of lessening process.
Yeah. And a lot of what it taught me then are now sort of phrases I say all the time to my clients, or like, on my Instagram when I'm giving, like lessons or tutorials or something, that like, the more power, the more physical control I tried to gain, the less power I truly had in the situation, the less control I truly had. And that's the big one that Bela taught me. I think overall, she's taught me so many, but that's a big one I could say, is that I got into, with both my dogs, at the time I had 2 dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have 5 now, but, I was trying to just dominate in a very physical, intimidating way, instead of thinking that that's what leadership is, like big and loud and strong and just raw. And they're animals, so they're going to respond to that, right? Because I'm an alpha, and whatever that means. And understanding that of course they need leadership. They're pack animals, and they do need a leader. But this concept of alpha, I think, carries its own weight, and it did for me anyway. And and understanding, where the kind of awakening I had to this was, I finally was, I've had plenty of bosses in my life that I had to listen to what they, for lack of a better term, they were my alpha in that situation, right? I had to listen to them. But it didn't mean I respected them, and it didn't mean I trusted them, right? But I followed their orders because I had to, because by survival, I needed a paycheck, right? Yeah. Dogs don't care about paychecks. They don't care about these kind of things that we have to, prioritize. And so when it comes to leadership, it doesn't matter what your job is, or your position is, or what your title is, or anything like that. If you don't represent real leadership, which is, calmness and confidence and capability, compassion and empathy and patience and fairness, and, all of that, firm enough to get the results, but as gentle as possible, as firm as necessary, as gentle as possible. You know what I mean? And firmness doesn't imply meanness. It doesn't imply corrections, or, it doesn't imply this idea of, I think people tend to think that if you're correcting a dog, you're doing something, inhumane. And no, I mean, I've had really good leaders in my life, and I've had really terrible bosses, and I could identify with the difference. And I've had those great leaders come up and give me a form of a correction, some sort of like, hey, you're doing this wrong and this is where you're going wrong. But it's
Mm.
not just about what I'm doing wrong. It's here's how you can improve. Here's what I want to show you. This is what I want to show you, that where we're at. And here's what I need from you. And here's how, if you don't know how to do that, how can I help you get there?
Yeah.
And that to me is leadership. And that's literally how I look at training dogs is
Yeah.
that if they're, they're quote, not listening, if they're acting up, it's not because it's personal. It's not because they're blowing you off or they're doing it to embarrass you or they're doing it because
Well, that's our
it's
ego talking if we're thinking
it's right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's they likely don't know what you want. Even though you're barking orders, you may be yelling the order or they probably don't even know what that sound you're making means. You've got to go back and you've got to teach it to them, and and it's just about, don't just are we being fair? Like, are we even asking something? The dog may know how to, I don't know. The dog may know how to, sit and stay and recall in your yard, but doesn't mean he could do it at the beach very well,
Right,
and
right.
to punish him because he's not performing there is just unfair. So it's that kind of idea. I mean, if I could give it one tiny simple example, it's just that idea of we can absolutely have that dog that listens to us in the most stimulating of circumstances, but you don't get there by jumping to it and then, trying to hold them accountable to something they barely know how to do in a really easy situation, not so stimulating situation.
There's something I keep going. Animals in general have made my life better, I think. And it's for a lot of the reasons we talk about. I'm curious for you, Kim, how have these relationships with dogs have impacted your own relationships, your own personal human to human relationships?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. Because I mean, the thing that I don't know if I came around to saying earlier is that, Bela taught me a lot about my ego and about my frustrations and my patience, or their lack thereof, and the short fuse I had. Because the more I kind of got carried away earlier, but what I wanted to say was that the more I tried to control her, the less control I had. And when I actually just calmed down and came from a place of calmness and fairness, we got on the same page and we were communicating at this point. It wasn't so much about a trained dog, it was about communication. So what that taught me was, on a personal level, is that applies to people too, stop and breathe and think, consider what's fair, consider what the other person already understands about maybe what you're trying to say, about what you're trying to communicate, about what you're trying to do, and go back and clear it up, if in the sense, and a big thing I had to learn is not in the name of, because you need to understand and I need to be right. That was another thing I learned. As much as I look at training as relationships, right? Train the lifestyle. So if my dog taught me about a lifestyle and a relationship and a coexistence with her, that can apply in many relationships. And the tools I was using to find my calmness in moments of frustration with my dog, I found that whenever I get frustrated, like with my spouse or my daughter, I would be able to call on the same tools, stop and breathe and think and go back to the beginnings and, just start smaller and let go of ego and all of those things. And to where, my husband, he'll say to me sometimes, he's like, you handle that really calmly. And even to this day, and I'll be like, thanks, hon, because he knows, well, that's one of those scenarios, that could really get you fired up back in the day. And it's, and he just, and it's not like, oh, wow, I'm surprised as much at this point, as much as look how far you've come and look how far and my husband, Chad, he also is a very patient person himself. So I had somebody around me in every day at work and at home, teaching me and giving examples of calmness and, like everything doesn't have to be big and loud all the time. That's not him as a person either. And so I had the examples and I had the patience from him to help in order for me to find that in me.
Yeah.
because some people could get impatient with you and be like, when you figure that crap out, let me know. I'm not, that was not my husband. He was with me along the way while I found all those tools and learned
Mm. Yeah.
how to use them and when, and yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you describe yourself as like, a confident, powerful,
Mhm.
maybe struggles at times with control, like at least early on. Like how
Yeah.
have you changed on that level as a person?
You know, when I started becoming aware of, well, your dog is a reflection of you, I immediately took almost offense to that.
Mm.
Because you know what I'm saying? Because there's that
Yeah.
ego. Because it's like, oh, so my dog's acting out bad because I have bad energy. Oh, well, then it must be me. It must be, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so for a while, I tried to change those things that were natural in me. Don't be so loud. Don't be so big. Don't be, back off. And I like the idea of, maybe you need to let that go. Maybe you don't need to act so loud right now. Maybe you don't, meaning, my response. Maybe you don't, this doesn't need to have such a disproportionate response or something. Although, yes, that is accurate. I think when I was looking at it, I was looking at it almost from a shameful place. And
Mm.
in the beginning, in the sense of, oh, I need to be something else. Like, so I tried to idolize off of other people that weren't, that were just naturally more calm and natural, like, for example, my husband, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there was a period that I struggled with that because although I understood that's something I needed and wanted, I wasn't staying grounded in my natural strengths either. And
Mm.
so I've learned and I continue to learn and stretch is still honoring the things that come naturally, like that strength, and that I'm not confident in all things, but when I have the confidence, like honoring those things, but shaping them and working them toward the outcome in just a calmer way, like blending. Is this a time to being able to? I guess what I'm trying to say is identify what is it you're feeling right now. Stop and identify, and then start there. Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling frustrated? Are you feeling,
Yeah.
identifying it? Whereas before, reflexively, I would just feel that way and then respond
Mm.
um, without really a conscious awareness of where it was coming from. So,
Yeah. So it's
yeah,
awareness is important.
awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I said that correctly.
Yeah. No, I mean, and you're, as a woman, you're also dealing with like society basically telling you to like, hey, quiet down now. Like, don't be so
Yeah.
loud and brash. But like, these things
Mhm.
are like beautiful superpowers of yours. But so I'm a helper. Like, I want to help and help and help people. Like but
Yeah.
I realize like, and maybe you can relate to this, I take it too far sometimes. Like, I don't do it in a way that's balanced, or
Mhm.
it becomes like even an emotional manipulation in others, right? And so I have to like, still hold on to that superpower, but also do it measured and you know,
Yeah.
and think of the context and all of that stuff.
Oh, that's exactly. Because,
Yeah.
and I think that's also, I think cosmically there was something just bigger going on in all of
Mm.
it, honestly, because, you know, it's the natural superpowers as you described them. I like that. That was cool. Those things were our strengths. And you're right. When you, as a female, if you're too much of something, then you usually get called a name or whatever, right? But
Yep.
versus it's not held to the same standard for men, right? So,
Yep.
and then being in a very male dominated business, in the film industry, I also, I had to almost kind of keep that guard up in order just to be able to stand ground with some people, because especially maybe in the generation that I first was coming in, it was like you were either, if you weren't flirty, then you must have been a lesbian, and then it was like a whole different set of like stigma that got put on you, which was is
Ugh.
just ridiculous,
Yeah.
And so, um, I kind of took this, like, so what, screw off kind of attitude in a lot of ways. And it really hardened me. And, just because I don't want to mess with you doesn't mean, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of just put this chip on my shoulder. But I love the film business, it was also a kind of industry and a pace and a schedule and everything that just really nurtured this side of me, this like, keep your guard up, uh, you know, a moment's notice, I'm ready to just throw down,
Yeah. Yeah.
at a moment's notice, like you'll feel the wrath, you'll feel my power, and almost intimidatingly so, like, and, and also the pace of the industry. You've got to go, 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 and you've got to anticipate, if you're not 3 steps ahead, you're behind. Like, that's just what it was. And so it definitely nurtured these things in me that I didn't realize inside was fighting to get out of. I think that's also why the universe brought me Bela. I think
Mm.
it's why the universe brought me Chad, because
Mm-hmm.
he's not that person. My husband, he's not that person at all. And his daughter, she was 1 when I met her, so she's 18 now. And she, I had to be patient for her, and all of these things. And so I think cosmically there was just this big thing happening, reminding me that, like, trying to help me grow into more. And I had to leave the film business as one way to help. And by doing so, going into dogs, and if I had to be present and get real results with the dog, I had to be very present. I had to be calm. I had to be all
Yeah.
these things we've been talking about while raising, helping raise our daughter and form a relationship with. It's like all these sources that I now feel like I've magnetized into my life,
Mm.
between the dogs, my husband, my child.
Yeah.
They're all pushing me to the same place, which I, of course, couldn't see it when I was in it.
No,
I can
it's hard
definitely,
to
yeah,
it's hindsight is 2020.
yeah.
What an a self-honoring decision to leave that
Oh,
industry, because it does, the way you describe it, it sounds so unnatural, right? Like,
yeah, yeah,
to be so like go, 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 and also to have those guards up, like,
yeah,
what a
yeah,
beautiful transition to dogs,
yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great. It served its purpose, but it was
Yeah.
definitely a stepping stone. I thought it was going to be my career forever. And, I was on a TV show that had been running many, many years and had many, many years in front of it. And everyone was like, "Are you crazy? Making good money and all that. You're leaving this? Like, are you nuts? Maybe you should wait till the show goes down. Maybe you." And I was like, "It doesn't matter. I don't care what I do. I don't." And my husband honored that. He's like, you need to find your happiness, and it's not
Yeah.
here. And
Have you seen my heart? It's not happy
yeah,
here. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
my husband and my daughter did. They were like, "Okay, we'll make it work. We'll make it work."
Amazing.
And we did.
Hmm.
So,
Can you, my wife is, so when I met her, I was wed into horses. Horses came with the relationship. And so Jessica, my wife, she, was raised in 4-H. She did all that. And, I
I
think
did too.
nice.
Yeah.
When she was like 16 or something, she would like take care of people's horses, and then eventually she got a horse, and so we have horses. We have 2
Yeah.
Percheron half draft horses, and I don't ride much anymore, but Jessica does, and I'm always struck when I do work with the horses, and I do from time to time to help Jessica out. I'm struck by how, and dogs are the same, how
Mhm.
much like they're just a reflection of you in a lot of ways. They pick up on everything you're feeling.
Yeah, the
They're like
nuances.
it's amazing to me. Like, so if I'm like feeling anxious, I see it in them before I even see it in me.
Ditto. Yeah.
Right?
I see it in dogs as well, the same way. Yep. Yep.
It's
Yep.
amazing. Can you talk to about that a little bit, and how that can just be a I don't know, really a tool for reflection and
Yeah.
reminders to kind of look inward.
Yeah. It's like they put a mirror up in front of your face.
Yeah.
And because, and I've learned to look for that with dogs. If I'm moving too fast, if I'm, you know, um, if I'm moving in really fast and a dog jumps back, I go, oh, yeah, okay, sorry about that.
Mhm.
In my head,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, let me redo this. And yeah, I grew up around horses as well, and showing and 4-H and all of that. And I think the interesting thing about that dynamic, horses versus dogs, and of course how people mix in, is that one's a predator and one's prey. And as
Mm.
far as and I think but there's still the same understanding of the vibe we bring to the situation. You know what I mean? You might get a different response accordingly, but I feel like horses, being more prey animals, are going to be even more sensitive,
Mm.
and capable of showing that sooner.
Yeah.
And good luck. A good example is like, try to catch an animal. Try to catch it. It doesn't have a leash on, doesn't have a collar on. Try to catch it.
Yeah.
Any animal for that matter. But if it's a prey animal, you're going to have a much harder time, because their instinct is to flee,
Right. Right.
right? And so what you actually have to do is move slow, slow down your mind and your movements and your thoughts, and you have to adjust your body language. You have to, you can't stand squared off. You have to maybe shift your shoulders, shift your body, come in sideways. The angle at which you approaching head on versus from behind versus the
Mm.
side, or you could
Yeah.
flush them away. You can make them think you're being confrontational, or you're, if you come up from behind, they can go into a defense mode. They can, what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
and so I definitely learned that with horses at a young age. And dogs, although, yeah, they are considered more of the predatory side, they still have the same sensitivities.
Mm.
And some dogs are more sensitive than others, right? I mean, not all dogs are strong like my Bela, right? I've since had sensitive dogs in my life where I'm like, I've got to, I can move fast like this with Bela, or stronger minded dogs that aren't as sensitive. But majority of dogs out there that I've seen now are very, very sensitive. And the truth is even if the dog is real strong, I want to get it sensitive, because I don't want to ever go toe to toe physically with an animal that is strong. I actually want to make it more soft, and that benefits my client and everything. So I've adapted that same understanding about horses to the dogs. Like, you move slower, breathe, clarify your intention. What is it you
Mm.
want right now? Just ask yourself, what is it you want? Do you want to catch them? Or do you want to join them? Do you want them to join you? I think sometimes just simple adjustments in your awareness of, and your intention of, what is it you want, and becoming a little more, conscious of, well, why do you want to catch them so much? Well, I need to get them. If we're going to talk about a dog, I need to get them on a leash. Okay, well, let's change it from catching to collecting or something, because words matter, and thoughts
Yeah.
matter. And then, okay, now, because when you say I'm going to collect them, that has a different vibe. And then the next question is, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah.
Like, are you feeling frustrated they ran away? Are you feeling, ticked off they're not listening to you? Are you feeling scared because they might run in the street? And all of that's valid. It's okay if you're angry, even, like, it's not to say you can't feel that way, but at least check in with that
Yeah.
before you move in. So clarifying your intention, and being aware of how you're feeling in that moment before even moving in, before even activating what you're going to do next, really sends the message to the animal, predator or prey, where you're coming from and what you want from them. And so I think it's more than just quietness too. Like, I can be frustrated and quiet. In fact, if I'm upset, I'm usually pretty quiet.
Me too.
So it's not about just don't talk, it's, what do you want and how are you feeling? And then you can go into, okay, now, well, let's think about maybe the angle at which we're approaching, because again, you can approach a dog head on squared shoulders, and it could be confrontational. If they're in a flight state, you're going to flush them away from you.
Yeah.
If they're in a fight state, meaning a forward state, you might get a confrontation. You might, understand all of that, understanding those different things. And I think when I start making even myself or my clients aware of that moment, it's like, okay, go ahead and get your dog. And you disarm yourself with all of that, and you become aware of it. I just want you to come back. I want to get you because I'm worried about you. Okay, fine. Well, let's get them. And when you would let people kind of find it on their own, I've found this time and time again, their first response when they get out of their head is they soften their shoulders, their body, everything softens. Their forehead's no longer wrinkled, like everything softens, and they naturally drop into a body language that's inviting, which is like, think about that. Like, what does an invitational body language look like? You're squatting down and you're putting your arms out.
Yeah.
And dogs typically come running to that, versus standing up screaming with your hands on your hips and your shoulders big, And at that point, it's not dog training. It's just you're communicating. I think all species is capable of that language, of body language and energy.
Yeah. What I really love about that, I mean, we talked about the, what are you feeling thing, but the piece of it that really struck me as such a, universal need for all of us to learn is checking in on the intent. Like, what is my goal here? And I'd imagine, and I'm included in this, all of us can relate to the feeling of like doing something without checking in with like, okay, why am I doing this? Right? Like, what am I here for? Like, why am I about to talk to my spouse about this thing? Like, what is the intent? Are we on the same team? And reminding myself of that, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like earlier, and a big thing I had was my intention used to be, well, you need to hear me because I need to be right.
Yep.
Instead of, well, my intention is to just get on the same page. Okay, you're going to come from a different angle then,
Yep.
And maybe you're even, if you're like, well, if once you adjust your intention, maybe you don't even need to have this conversation because you realize, oh, I am just doing this to be right, for example, or I'm frustrated. And then you go, well, why now you can become aware of, well, I'm clearly frustrated. Why am I frustrated? Well, this isn't about what's going on right now. This is about what happened last week, or this is what I've been going through this week in particular is, the emotion I'm going through with the Bela situation with her health, it bleeds over. It naturally does. And I'm not going to pretend it won't, but just being honest. And I take a little extra time before I do things. I'm checking in while I'm doing them. If I feel myself getting a little like fast or frustrated with something, whether it's a client or something I'm doing, even if I'm just pumping gas, I just stop. And this isn't about what's going on in front of you right now. This isn't about, that. You're upset, and it's okay too. But I think it just helps soften. Awareness is just everything. I think it helps soften what's going on in that moment. It can diffuse a lot of potential problems.
Yeah. So we, our family, Jessica and I, we adopted Maddie. She's like, we think she's part cattle dog, part Basenji, maybe. She was on the streets of San Bernardino, and we adopted her through the Little Red Dog, based here in Orange County. And she's so smart and lovely and adorable. And we've been training her, place training her, based on your methods and stuff. And
oh yeah, you got the place video.
Yeah, we've been doing that, and yeah, of course, and leash training. We've been doing that, and it's such a, like, I do find myself, even though she's like so smart and she's pretty darn good and she's getting better, like I'll find myself just feeling frustrated, just feeling like, oh, you're not doing everything I say, you're not doing everything I want, and it's it's just such a it's such a like, oh no, you're screwing up here. Like, oh no, this is on you. Yeah. This is not on her. Like, and I'm just so thankful for that reminder every time, because I'm just like, it reminds me to go back to like, okay, why are you feeling this way in the first place? It's not about her.
Mhm.
You're just frustrated because she's not doing exactly what you want. And I'd imagine that's
Mhm.
such a universal feeling for dog owners that you help train.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's probably the in one form or another the underlining theme of every conversation I have, every lesson I do, every it's like, well, where is this all rooting from?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where is this all rooting from? And the power, the mirror they can put up for us. The hard part, I guess, for me is not everybody's ready to face that mirror or ready to understand that is a mirror being put up in front of you. So
Yeah.
I say it's the hard part, but it's also kind of the amazing, beautiful part too. Is if I can help bring some awareness. I mean, I'm not here to come in and say, "Hey, you're anxious, and you need to stop doing that." That's not at all. But when somebody calls and says, "Hey, I'm dealing with this behavior and I can tell it's because the dog is anxious and there's some anxiety in the house or the way they're living or whatever." Okay, I can use the dog as the vehicle to help bring some awareness to what the dog needs. And what it inevitably brings out is, okay, well, how do we provide what the dog needs? Well, how we live with them and how we're responding in these moments and what we did before the problem and during and after. There's a beginning, middle, and end to everything, and um helping people become aware of the lifestyle they're living with their dog, and not good or bad, right or wrong, not at all, just awareness and saying that, like, look, I'm not the dog trainer that's going to give you these blanket answers and say, get your dog off your couch. And, I mean,
Right.
sure, it has its places and its reasons, but if if that's what is necessary, sure. But it's more like, well, let's just look at the way we're living and what the dog understands from you, what the dog expects from you, and understands what's expected of it. And that comes down into lifestyle. And when you start talking about lifestyle, people, you end up reflecting. I end up having the conversations more about the way that people are, and I love it. That's the good stuff, like how they're feeling and what they're going through, and where all of its root coming from, and
Mm.
and people end up expressing, my last dog did this, and I want them to be like that dog. Okay, well, that's fair, of course, but that's not the same dog, and helping them come through some of the things that they didn't even realize they were holding on to, and um, pressures and expectations that were unfair to the dog and probably even themselves sometimes,
Yeah. It really is such a, I mean, it makes me so happy to hear, you as, facilitating these trainings with, dog owners, and, it's about that relationship, but, ultimately it's, as you said, it allows people to reflect on their own, how they are impacting their dog and that relationship, and it allows them that meaningful look inward, because that is ultimately what's necessary to
Yeah.
to allow these relationships to flourish. And it just makes me so happy as someone who like cares so deeply about mental health and self-awareness to that it's just a reminder that there's so many paths inward. There's so many opportunities for us to reflect on those things, and a relationship with a dog is one of them.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
That's the
awesome.
kind of the cool thing. It's a different species, but they're so capable of being compatible to our lives.
Yep.
And we just have to make sure we're honoring that they're still dogs, of course, but like this bigger understanding of what they can teach us. And because I know I've experienced it with myself in my own pack. So I just I want others to experience that magic.
Do you see in like the future of the Canine Republic a program really about like more sort of about kind of the emotional mental health piece of it?
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
so
I
many
would love to
goals and
see
there's
a
so many
workshop
things,
like
and
that.
I have several trainer friends who train the same way, feel the same way. We've talked about, there's these big pipe dream kind of goals, like what if there's a facility and there's of course a training yard and kennels and all of that, but then on the other side there's there's a yoga room and there's a meditation
Yeah.
room, and and you go from, it's where you go, it's a one-stop shop for mental health and dog. And then, but the training is last, the training yard is last. And you got to go through these other things and you get checked in with
Yes.
yourself, and now go get your dog.
I've got
Now go handle your dog.
goosebumps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I
It's,
want.
and honestly, it's a lot of what I do already, but just not in a formalized facility or anything like that. But it's a lot of what I do already.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is very
Yeah,
clear.
it's
Yeah.
it's pretty cool, stuff.
Well, I mean, I launched a little business back in May called the Feel a Human Collective, and
Hmm.
part of the vision that I have for its future is to do, more, like, because I've done some empathy workshops in colleges and in person and stuff, and obviously there's not a lot of in person workshops happening right now, but the future is like more stuff like that. And I
Hmm.
someday I'd love to like hire you to come and like lead a
Oh my
workshop
gosh.
at one of my Feely Human retreats, because like all of this stuff is so important and it's so human and so, yeah, like I said, there's just so many access points to feeling, to mental
I would,
health, to empathy, and
yeah,
those animal relationships, are crucial to that.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
be honored. That would be amazing. Because I think, as much as I said, the dogs put up this mirror for us to see, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. They do so in a way without any kind of judgment too. And once you kind
Yes.
of open your mind to what they're showing, they're not judging because they're still happy. They're still, you know what I mean? You're still their number one human. They still love every ounce of you. And,
Yeah.
even at your worst. That's the beautiful. I think that's why. I think that's probably the thing that everybody enjoys about their dog. Is they think you're amazing, even if you don't think you're amazing.
Mm.
But understanding, like, look, you are. I feel like they're your cheerleader as much as I call them like spirit guides. They can be your coach. They can be your support. They can be all kinds of things. But it takes a lot of awareness and effort and then humility, right?
Oh
Once you
yeah.
kind of open yourself up to it, it's like, okay, well, it's not personal. And that's the beautiful thing about it. They don't make it personal by any means, but it's a beautiful thing. And I love that, just in general, this avenue of dogs has connected me to so many other humans. If I wouldn't have you, for example, I wouldn't if it weren't for dogs,
Yeah.
and I work with a prison reform program, where we bring in dogs, and these men train dogs, and they finally get the chance for the first time to love something and love them back. and
Mm.
and the dogs don't come in front of them and go, "Oh, you're a criminal." They don't judge, and if you have this great vibe about you, and you're somebody that can be calm and trustworthy, and keep them safe, that's it. And these animals come in without judgment, and these guys don't feel like, you see me for who I truly am. And I think that's what the dogs do for us. They see us for who we truly are, and I think that's a really beautiful thing to bring out, for them to bring out in us. If we can just, I want to just help facilitate that for people. Like, let them show you
Yeah.
what they can bring out in you.
Yeah. And it's a reminder. It's a reminder for us as humans to allow us to see others for who they are too, right? We can do that
Right.
for each other. I mean, it's not just the dogs that can do that for us.
That's right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So I had to bring up, because I saw on your website that you did some Buck Brannaman clinics at some point.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that. Did you see the documentary Buck?
I did. I loved it.
Oh my God. There's something I was bawling. And there's something
Yeah.
about that documentary, and it kind of made me think about my relationship with my father a lot, and that's probably a piece
Yeah.
of the sort of emotional component to it. But just
Yeah.
such a
'Cause he had a pretty
beautiful,
strained relationship.
exactly,
Yeah.
such a beautiful, like I the way that my wife sort of approaches horsemanship. It's this natural sort of, you're building the relationship just like Buck Brannaman taught, and I don't know. I had to bring it up because listeners, if you haven't seen the documentary Buck, it's so beautiful and you should see it.
It's funny. I was actually talking about that last week with a shadow student that I had. I was like, you should find this documentary Buck, because a lot of what I was teaching her, she was becoming a trainer and wanting to learn some of the techniques. And I was doing a lot of just body language stuff, just body movement, and present your, that whole concept is, I literally said, let's go leash up this dog, and how we present ourselves. What do you want? How do you feel? All of that. And a lot of the leash work I do is very similar. A lot of it's in that same concept of I guess the groundwork that he does, and this idea of how you approach and the way he uses his body and his space around him, to communicate what he wants. It's like a push pull, and and the documentary. So there's that scene where he's holding the rope and someone else is holding the rope, and he keeps snapping the rope. You remember that? And he keeps jerking the rope. And after the third or fourth time, he went to do it, but he didn't. But the other person anticipated his arm being pulled. Right? Yep. You remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And the guy let the arm go as if he got pulled, but he didn't pull him. And I don't know if I'm describing it well, but you know what I mean. And he's like, "See, you were anticipating me jerking you around, jerking you." And our animals start to do that. And so just that right there, that little moment, it really stands out for me, because I take that into leash work.
Yep.
If we're pulling them around all the time, doesn't mean they're in agreement with you. They're not following you. They don't have a choice when you're doing it like that.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice. I want it to be their choice to follow me. And, there's a time for pressure on the leash. Absolutely. But using it to teach versus drag everywhere. You just have two animals at the opposite end of a rope pulling each other around, human and dog, or,
Yeah.
So there needs to be an agreement between that rope.
Yeah.
So that scene really stood out to me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful scene. Speaking of like the leash stuff, can you talk to me a little bit about like the philosophy of like the pack life, like pack walks and stuff?
Yeah. Well, dogs have different drives in them, a lot of people mostly have heard of like prey drive or work drive, they have different drives, and pack drive is one of them. And it's that concept of, they're pack animals, and they want to be together, and they need to move together, migrate together, and ideally follow a leader. Somebody's got to lead that, and you want to build up their pack drive. So, when I get on a dog on the leash, putting them into a pack walk, you can't just put a bunch of dogs that aren't great on the walk, right? If they don't walk great individually, they don't typically walk great in a pack, because once they get in a pack, they're excited or they're maybe stressed. Yeah. Or what if somebody has an issue with one of the other dogs or something? So you have to kind of work them individually in preparing them for the pack. And you do so by building pack drive. And my way of doing that is I actually put them on a longer line. I put them on a 15-foot leash, which seems so counterintuitive. How do I get a dog that normally pulls me on my 6-foot leash, and I give them more than twice the length? How am I going to get them next to me now? And that's actually that's the point, because it's now their choice to follow you versus being drugged. So it's a matter of moving around, you have to become very intentional with your path, your pace, where you're headed. Of course there's some timing involved, but it's really about just, turn and walk. And if the dog doesn't come along, they'll get to the end of the line, and then they'll feel the leash, and they'll catch up. Right. And then when they catch up, and then you just start, you literally can go back and forth, left and right, just moving in a box or in like a cross or an X, back and forth, not in circles. You want to make straight lines, very definitive. I'm moving, and now I'm doing a 180, very definitive. And the dog starts anticipating, like, where are you headed? And using that relationship that you have, your dog wants to be with you. They just think that they're supposed to drag you on the leash because that's what they know, maybe. And so you take all that leash pressure off, and you just start moving with so much purpose and intention. And before you know it, they pack in. They come into your side. And now it's their choice to be with you, And so I build up pack drive, obviously build up their ability to do so in the beginning, no distractions, but you build it up around distractions, and you get that concept that, hey, I've bailed, I've turned and gone the other way, and their reflex becomes, where you going, no matter what's in front of them, and it's not this vibe of, oh my God, there's a dog, I gotta go. It's I'm choosing to turn and go the other way, and that, there comes that determination and that leadership, that true leadership we talked about earlier, and the dog naturally wants to follow that, and that it becomes muscle memory, even that you've left, I follow. You change that dynamic of leader follower, driver's seat versus passenger seat, and when you get that pack drive good and strong, and they understand where, what you want, and they feel good about it. It's not just enough that they're there, they feel good about it. And now you can start challenging them more. And when you balance that understanding in their brain of what the walk should look like between you two, then when you start adding dogs that know how to do it as well, then you work through those bumps, but it's easy because you've already been doing all this work of leader follower, and, come with me, and don't do that, do this instead. And, then you get them in a pack, and now you're talking about fulfillment, because they're getting exercise physically, they're getting plenty of walks, plenty of walking in. Mentally, they're being challenged and fulfilled because you're asking so much of them. They're being challenged and stimulated. And it's not leading to excitement and chaos. It's leading to calm following, leadership following. And then now there's to add the fulfillment of other dogs that are like-minded in the same state of mind. And energy's infectious, and
Yeah.
A really stable pack that knows how to walk well can really influence. They're going to influence the dog before I can, so that I use my pack all the time to help influence other dogs. And because you just raise that, you really raise up that fulfillment for them as far as getting that genuine social experience that represents calmness and follow and team unity, and that's a fulfilled dog, versus, what else we think they might want with socialization, which is chaos and excitement and dog park vibes. Like that's fun, but that's not necessarily fulfilling.
Right.
From those natural instinctual places.
Yeah, I ask. It's fascinating. It's really, and we've been working with Maddie on the long sort of 15-footer leash.
Yeah.
And at times she's great. At times, she really looks back all the times, looking everywhere. And she's like, I think she still has this anxious energy about her. And I don't know if it's a result of the fact that she lived on the street for a year. I don't know if that's it, or we have to sort of, I don't know, coach that out of her or something, maybe she's just still getting used to us. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, well, how long have you had her?
It's been about 3 months.
Oh yeah, definitely still adjusting for sure.
Yeah.
And how you consistency is everything for them to get acclimated.
Yeah.
And and it's important to remember that it's not just about what you're doing, when it's training time, meaning I'm going to go out and work with you on the leash, it's about how you live every day, every moment with them, the way you come in the home, the way you leave, the way you even just share space, period, in the house. And, we could talk about affections and how they're given and at what time and for what purpose, and, all of it. It's about, that's why my favorite thing to say these days is train the lifestyle, because, all the leash work stuff and place work, all those techniques are great for teaching tools and technique and all of that. But, it comes down to what goes on even inside those four walls of our house. And what that shows them who we are more so than when we're out on the leash. Does that make sense?
It does. It totally does. I wonder, hearing you say that and really having an understanding that owning a dog and having a dog in your life, is work.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
it's not a, they're not a plaything, and
Yeah.
I wonder, like, for you, how much sometimes is the training kind of reminding people that, like, this is, as you put it, a lifestyle. This is a commitment.
Mhm.
This takes work. And if you put the work into it, you're going to have a much more fruitful life with your animal. But if you don't, it's just going to be a life of frustration.
Yeah. Or it may not, it just may not be everything it could be,
Yep. Yep.
And then what you end up doing is you're just living around it or management, and that's plenty of people are okay with that. So one of the big things I always start by asking, I mean, I could walk into a situation and see exactly what needs to be done, but I always ask, what is it I can do for you? Because the way I want to live with a dog might not be the way you want to live with a dog, or the way anybody, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
what are your goals? And of course, cleaning up, helping them understand what that means. Cause people will be like, well, I want them to listen to me. What does that mean?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? What does that mean? And just again, I bring it all back to intention. Like, what do you truly want from them? And okay, now what are we doing on the daily to get them there? Right? Like, to help them understand that is what we want. Because here's an easy example that I get often is, I don't like it when my dog jumps on people coming in the door. Okay, so how do you come in the door? I walk in and I say hello, and I'm like, do you get excited? Do they come and rush to and say hello to you? Yeah, of course. My dogs do too. I come in and say, hey guys, and they come and greet me at the door. Do they jump on you? Yeah. What do? I pet them. Well, okay. So, I mean, this is a really simple example, but if you come in the door and you make a big, hi, hello, babies, and we pet on them while they're jumping on us, they're not going to be able to distinguish the difference of whether it's you or the guest then they get yelled at maybe because now here comes somebody and don't jump on them. But what we've taught them is anytime somebody comes through that threshold, you get rewarded. And more importantly, excitement. That door carries a weight of excitement, anything related to that door. Because every time something comes through, there's something very exciting happening.
Yeah.
So we can change a lot of that in just like simple little habits that we do daily. Like, I'm not saying don't say hello to your dog when you come in the door, but maybe you wait till they're calmer and then you say hello. So now you're acknowledging calmness instead of acknowledging excitement.
Yep.
And then the way you're saying hello is in a calmer vibe, so that we also don't get them so excited about us being gone and coming, because then you can deal with anxiety about you coming and going. And, I mean, it's a simple example, but
it's a great one. It's a great example. Yeah. It's one that we've been trying to work on with Maddie for sure. And it's such a funny thing. It's such a natural human want to like go, oh, come here, like to approach a dog that way, right? But that's if we really take a step back, that's just our own ego and what we want to feel from like this attention,
Yeah, of course, everybody loves to be greeted that way, or loves to be, I light up, you light up when I come in the room, like, oh my gosh, that feels amazing.
Yep.
So yeah, of course, but some of the things I say a lot of times is like, that's not typically how like even balanced dogs greet each other. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, because dogs may see each other and get excited, but a lot of times it's more of a learned behavior than, and it also can be the start of a problem. And some dogs can handle that stuff very easily and never need to call a trainer, and an owner of a dog that's just so naturally easy can listen to this and be like, that doesn't, I can get excited and that doesn't happen. But that's obviously, if that were common, I wouldn't even have a job,
Right.
I've gotten lucky and had really easy dogs that I never had to do much. And I told myself I trained them really well. But in hindsight, I realized I just had a really easy dog, really, simple. They just were naturally good at things, So, so what we do inside the house pays into the stuff that they do outside of the house. That a lot of times I get the questions that I get asked, or the concerns that get put in front of me. Yeah. So I always boil it down. I had a client call me the other day. I went over to their house and we were going to meet at the park. I'm not going in homes right now, but I met in their neighborhood at their house, and they were freaked out because they were walking their dog out to the out to their driveway, and they put the dog in the car and didn't see someone come up, just walking by, and the dog got past them, jumped out, and went and actually bit this person walking in front of their house. And they were very surprised, and it wasn't, obviously, and then animal control got called, and now, there's this record. And so I haven't seen them, since that happened. And I can just feel the difference on them. And I've been working with them. The dog knows me. We've done this lesson several times where I knock, they answer the door, they come out. And for the first time, the dog is now, I'm outside, I open the door, the dog is growling. It even tried to go for me. And they're like, well, what is this? Now he's aggressive with everybody. It's like, it's not the case. It's just the vibe has changed here. Like, how nervous are you since that happened? I'm very nervous. I don't want it to happen again. Understandably so.
Yeah.
But understand that is fueling him right now.
Right.
Like, because he doesn't understand that was a one-off. That just happened. And we started, talking a little more about the situation and understanding, well, maybe putting him in the car was a little rushed. Maybe what happened in the house before you brought him out of the car, something tense might've happened, and we talked about like the scene that led prior to I jumped out of the car and I bit somebody. What happened? What was going on? And then how have you been treating him since? How have you been feeling in the week that's passed since? And they've been scared. They've been tense. They haven't been taking him anywhere, so there's just this like fear coming out of all of them. And so that dog is just like, we're freaked out over here. Nobody come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody
come into our space. We're scared. And that's where I talk about leadership, because the dog doesn't understand, oh, you're the trainer, you're cool, as much as something's changed around here. And my mom and my dad are just scared, and they don't know how to send you away. So I'll do it. Like it's that kind of thing. I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
So, we just worked through it, and now we're going back inside. Like there's a lot of chaos in that house. There's a lot going on, and not everybody in the house is on the same page about what needs to happen. And it's really unfair to the dog to expect them to perform a certain way when, 75% of the people in the house do everything against what you're trying to do. So that's where we start talking about, again, lifestyle and, expectations.
I love that. What a beautiful example of the work you do and can do for people. So for the listener's sake, Kim, explain a little bit about, we've kind of all covered it, but like maybe in more specifics, like Canine Republic, what it does, what your goals are for the future, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. What we do is the Canine Republic, our goal is to help dogs originally, but now it's shifted more into helping people become, on the same page with their dog, in the sense of creating not so much a trained dog as much as just a balanced lifestyle. One that satisfies, of course, all your wants and needs and happinesses that you have with your dog, all your goals, as long as they are still aligned with the goals, the wants and needs of the animal in your house as well. Making sure that it's fair. A lot of times people want things from their dog that aren't necessarily things the dog would want. And so helping, I look at myself as a mediator, or I use an interpreter. I kind of speak dog in that sense, and I come in and help you speak dog, help you identify what's missing, what they're communicating, and then help fill the blanks on how to like a relationship counselor.
Yeah.
This is what your dog is saying, and this is what your dog needs, and this is what they want. And, but I want this. I understand, but let's find a way to get what you want while still getting what they want and what they need. Because when it comes down to it, they're a dog, and they're definitely capable of these wide range of emotions and being companions in our house, but they're not human. And we can't look at their psychology and their problem solving skills the same way. And it's actually kind of the simplicity of who they are. And it's beautiful. So I come in as the interpreter that helps identify where the gap in the communication is and fill the gap. And as a goal moving forward, I'm actively creating a workshop plan myself for 2021. Something going to start small, but starting in in the new year about just bringing in people with their dogs. I've been to plenty of workshops, training workshops, where you watch a trainer work a dog or you watch other people, but not as often, not so much like I want to bring my dog. And a lot of times the dogs that are allowed in those workshops they can't be too reactive. They can't be too severe for liability reasons, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm navigating I want you to bring your dog, without any screening. Of course, I need to make sure I do that in the safest way possible for everybody involved. And I want to do like a 4-day kind of workshop that is bring your dog in and let's start from the beginning and let's break it down. And of course, we're going to cover training technique. Of course, I'm going to show my foundational pillars of crate, place, leash work. But the fourth one is relaxation work. And the relaxation, how it's like an umbrella to everything in the sense of relaxation for your dog, relaxation for you. I have specific relaxation things I do with the dog, from massage and weight transfer and pressure points and all of that you have to perform on your dog, and you can't do that tense.
Right.
Can you imagine calm down while you're massaging, the dog or something? So that's one of my favorite pillars, is like asking them to share touch in a way that affects them to a calm place. And then obviously inevitably connects them to themselves, the human to themselves. Because once you connect to yourself, then you're feeding that vibe. Then you're feeding that to your dog. And now your touch has purpose. And so I want to have like a 4-day workshop that of course covers the technique, but focuses on the relationship and the dynamic and our self-awareness. And even as I'm saying this now, it's helping me clarify all of it, because I'm taking notes on things that I want to cover, and and just bringing, by the end of the 4 days, you're not going to have all your problems solved. You're not going to have a perfect dog. No expectation of that. It's just get a roadmap created, and a lifestyle started that is tangible and real and transferable. It's not just something that, oh, look, the trainer could do this, but like, no, you can do it. I want you to work your dog all weekend, all 4 days, and I'll coach you through it. And there'll be maybe a few other folks, I'll keep it small, and then you could see their journey as well. And that camaraderie that can come, and that unity that can come by having others like you in the same place. That's that's one of the big things I have right now that I'm really looking forward to.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Kim, we always wrap up the show talking about our empathy heroes. These are folks, maybe even dogs in our lives, who are deeply empathetic. They could even be characters from stories we love. All of the above. I will go first to give you a second to think about your empathy hero.
Thank you.
My empathy hero this week is the author Bet Williams. Bet is the author of a new book that I just started called The Wild Kindness, a Psilocybin Odyssey. And it's about her experience with magic mushrooms. And it's fascinating. It's really, she's a beautiful writer. And I, for myself, I've been interested in psilocybin just as a tool to help with my depression. And Bet creates this beautiful memoir about, sort of her relationship with mushrooms and how they've sort of impacted her life and her story. And I don't know, I'm a reader. I love books, and I love when I can pick up a book and feel like I don't really want to put this down, and that's how I've been feeling with Bet Williams. And she just has such a sort of tangible connection to the earth and to Mother Nature and to animals. And I don't know, I hope to get her on the podcast soon. So that's Bet Williams. She's the author of the new book, The Wild Kindness. I recommend highly. Check her out. She's my empathy hero this week.
Oh,
yeah. How about you?
Um, you know, yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna think about this even once we end this podcast some more because that's a really nice thing to reflect on. As I was thinking about it, though, I just kept coming back to I don't know if I have just one person or entity, but I really I would say my family, and when I say family, I mean my husband and my daughter, but I also mean my pack of dogs.
Mm.
It feels a little generic, but it's true. I mean, the sense that, like I touched on this earlier, that I think cosmically, we've just been aligned to walk this earth together and help each other grow. And if it weren't for my husband's patience along the way and my daughter's silent grace that she has shown in teaching me about myself. And then, of course, you've heard me share about my dogs and this beautiful journey I've been on with Bela for these 13 years and will continue to be on for the years after. And all of it have just taught me so much. And I think I didn't even really understand the word empathy before them, you know, and so I know I've thought of several other names, but if I could take it back to, the concept being introduced to me, I would say, my family.
Yeah.
I back my family.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Kim, where can the listeners learn more about the Canine Republic and connect with you?
Yeah. So I do have a website, thecaninerepublic.com. But, one of probably the most interactive, and I'm super interactive on it, is my social media, the Instagram, at _canine_republic. Canine spelt out. It's not, CANINE. I'm very active. I don't post as often as I'm told I should. But
hey,
I
you do you.
Yeah, exactly. I do me. But my stories, I'm very, the Instagram stories, I'm very active on those. I share a lot there. I share the journey of every training dog that I have. I like to show their arc. And so along the way, I show a lot of things that can be beneficial, little, lessons for people that people have gotten a lot out of. And I get a lot of message. People send me questions a lot of times. And I'm pretty interactive in that format. So yeah, you can check out my website, of course, but where you're going to see some just constant fresh content would be probably my Instagram and specifically the stories.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Kim, I so appreciate you coming on to You Me Empathy, and I thank you for sharing, your story and Bela's story a little bit too, and your connection. It's so I trust that she'll continue to be a guide and I don't know, just a piece of beauty in your life, now and after she's gone. And I just grateful that you've had her in your life.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me the space to share it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was beautiful how you said, let's check in. And I was like, well, here comes some honesty. and you created a safe space for that. So thank you.
You're welcome. And to you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's You Me Empathy.